Hello, my friend. Thanks for joining this episode of the Enneagram and Marriage podcast. Today's topic is secure love, building unshakable connection in marriage with EJ and Terah Kerwin. Guys, we do some Enneagram typing on this episode. This couple is so good at strategizing for their marriage, for your marriage, and even fine tuning their Enneagram types. We are in for a treat today with EJ and Terah. And I'm also personally just grateful for this time together with them because I learned some new tools as well. And we get to validate a lot of the work you are already doing by being so thoughtful about your Enneagram work. So, good job to you right from the get go. And let's talk a bit about our marriage minute before we welcome EJ and Terah on and share a bit more about them. So, today's marriage minute started last night on my twilight run. When Wes appeared in the driveway doing push-ups, my story I was telling myself was he was running out to meet me with open arms, so glad to join me on my run and so happy to just step in with me with headphones on. We're in our worlds, but we're together. You know I love those parallel little lives. That came to a little crashing halt when he wanted to slow down, walk, and talk. What a thing. So thankfully, I was doing my work. I was aware and I slowed down. I talked with him about his life, his work, his passions that he was having. And guys, I do that all the time with mine. And, I was also thinking like, okay, I want to be gentle. We're doing this 5K next week. I don't want to overdo, but it was a slow run anyway. And I'm like, let me just enjoy this moment. It's a beautiful night, and I am just happy to be present in the moment right now. And sure enough, that switching gears, taking the deep breath was exactly what was needed for my Enneagram 1 husband to just allow himself, give himself permission to slow down with my enthusiasm by his side. And we walked together while he shared. And it just struck me that secure love isn't about grand gestures. It's about these tiny choices we make each and every day to be present with each other. And when he called a little while later after he went in to check on me on my run, it felt like security too, and the way I love security. So I have a tiny challenge for you this week in that vein. Notice one bid for attention from your partner this week. Maybe they show you something on their phone, mention a concern about work, or just appear near you while you're doing something. Take that deep breath like I did and choose presence over your original plan, even if it's just for a few minutes. Then come tell me about it. You can share it Instagram because we're doing a post on this topic tonight, or you can always email us as well. But remember, it's these small moments of choosing connection that build secure love. And we're going to be talking today with EJ and Terah Kerwin of Relationship Renovation because their work, their entire practice is about helping couples to create secure, stable relationships. And they've transformed countless marriages. They have 15 others that now work with them. You're going to hear their story of how they got together, how this all started, and how through their counseling presence, their online presence as well, they've developed all these lasting connections for people all over the globe. And they're so passionate to help people to avoid the patterns they've gotten stuck in their two wing one, and also he's within the 4 and 5 space. And so you're going to get to hear how they use their gifts. And also, of course, guys, we know our gifts can be the collateral damage as well. And they're so vulnerable, which we love on our deep dive season we're doing here at E&M too. So let's go ahead and welcome EJ and Terah. EJ and Terah, I am so happy to
Perfect.
have you on the Enneagram and Marriage podcast today. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, you bet. It's great to be here. We're
And
super excited.
and we've been looking forward to being guests on your podcast, and we got sick, so we had to cancel the first time. So we were just like, it's even more time to build up that excitement to talk to you.
Yay! I am so grateful you're better. And I know many of our listeners are right there with us. Everybody was sick. We're all getting better together. So
Yay.
glad you're better. And also, you're in a beautiful studio. Guys, we're going to be diving in today, as we said before they came on. But I love that you're figuring out your Enneagram types. Guys, tell us about
Yeah.
where you're at with that and see if I can clarify anything for you.
You go ahead.
Okay. So, well, I downloaded like the book that you have on the website, and
Mhm.
then I took the test, and it came out to like I actually have it saved on my phone if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, please. It's
Okay.
okay.
So I took a photo of it today. Center body, oh wait, type 1 perfectionist, center body, types 2 and 9, growth factor, vector 7, stress vector 4.
Okay. So you
So,
had some, go on.
well, I was going to say, and then I was listening to your season 7, episode 2 podcast, like power moves. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I think I'm a heart though. So
Mm.
yeah, we're still like learning about it. And I bought your book and reading through that. And I love the first chapter. It's amazing
Oh,
because
thank
it reminds me of
you.
all the work we do with our couples, like the
Oh,
transition periods, and it's always a growth,
mm.
So yeah, we're kind of figuring it out. So I'm really glad to have you
Yeah.
here to help us clarify.
Well, and then I listened to I came out first as a 4 when we did the test, and then we were listening this morning to your podcast where it just described a little more in depth, just in your own voice. And then I kind of identified more with 5, and I think what I identified was around like decision making and
Mm.
really looking at things like what Tara might say is slowly, but for me is like looking at things in a deep way, like
Yes,
looking for,
perspective.
yeah,
Mm.
trying to like turn things around and look at it from different angles all the time, um, which is
Mhm.
like definitely our opposites. We were talking to somebody about the other
Yeah.
day is that Tara's just like a go, just yes, that's a decision. Let's
Yeah.
do it now. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, wait a minute. Let's think about this for a while. And that it pulls each of us out of our comfort zones a little bit. The other
Right.
person pulls us out of the comfort zone.
Mm. Oh my gosh. Well, just to help you guys and some of our listeners, I noticed we had a lot of new listeners as I was sharing on that podcast that you listen to. And I feel like to help you all out, I can remind you, of course, first and foremost, sometimes we do have a couple patterns at work. So
Yeah.
it's okay if you're still not resonated with one type fully today. I don't want to be the one to push that because we all have to find that ourselves. But I also do want to say, I see some very strong one wing two in Terra or two wing one. I think of those almost as like half past the hour or half to the hour, like, or the
Mm.
flat no or the sharp. It's so close to the other one. So a one wing two and a two wing one are so much, they're almost the same. But the type 1 and 2 motivation, you're right, Tara, they are a little different because the one is a body gut let's go type. And two
Hmm.
is going to have more of that, like, oh, let me feel everybody's feelings first. But you still
Oh
have
yeah.
both of those. So you'll have to wrestle with, am I deeply longing for connection first, or am I deeply longing for rightness first? Because
Connection
ones want to be
first. Yeah.
right and have justice, and twos want to be a giver first. That's how they seem to find their worth.
Yeah.
So I love that you're wrestling with both. And just quickly, the doing is the gift of the one, and twos can be doers, but 5 is doing inhibited. So, like you told the other couple about your opposites attract pairing, that's such a beautiful thing. You help each other because I would imagine, EJ, you slow her down sometimes too. Is that right? In a good way?
Yeah, sometimes slow her down in a good way, sometimes probably slow her down in an
Yeah.
uncomfortable way,
That's so
For
true.
sure.
Yeah. Well, and don't want to take her joy away because I see also like her impulsivity and
Mm.
is like something that provides her with a lot of joy. I also know like that she has a good compass and like even though sometimes her decisions are made more quick than I'm maybe comfortable with, I know
Mhm.
like a lot of times her decisions are spot on. So, um,
Mm.
so it's like I don't want to
Yeah.
squash that.
Well,
Mhm.
and I think that when I was listening to your podcast today, the power moves, because I do
Mhm.
really resonate with two because of
Mhm.
that attunement with others and caring and
Mm.
giving. And I'm the
Yeah.
last to put my laundry away. I'm the
Oh,
last to like, I forget lunch, I forget dinner. And you had said that
yeah.
on the podcast. And
Yeah.
so I
Oh,
think of that like, wow, that
yeah.
is so true. So EJ will remind me like, Tara, like, you have to eat too, and your
Oh.
feelings matter too. And so I think it's always finding that balance between 1 and 2, because otherwise, I've recognized I will get
Mhm.
very overwhelmed in my
Mm.
nervous system,
Yes.
right? To like want things to be just, but also to make sure everybody else is okay
Mm-hmm.
Well,
first.
it becomes an injustice to yourself.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you, EJ.
which is what is hard
See
because
that number five
as you were
perspective
talking about the
taker.
difference between one and two, like what was
Yeah.
thought about, what I thought a lot about is like how much of that was like, adaptive stuff from your childhood
Right.
where you had to take care of everybody else, nobody was there to take care of
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so how much of this of the Enneagram is based upon like sort of like your soul, what you come in with,
Mm,
and how much of it is based upon like just how you adapt to your environment.
Yeah, I think I want to let you and the listeners know here that a lot of the time we've come to learn the nature and nurture are both part of it. So you probably came in with your gifts, but when they get less healthy, it's because, as you so well said, they were, they were entrapping you for a while too. So you had to be at the lower levels where you were like both one and two sort of operate out of that parent energy, super ego energy.
mhm.
And so when there's a little bit of that, it's like, oh my gosh, that's her gift. She's going to be a great leader. She's going to be a helper and a visionary, but she'll also know she's worthy of love and that people
Yeah.
are allowed to make mistakes. When she's in the hyper vigilant fight or flight mode, she's going to be like, I have to do this perfectly. There's no grace. We won't survive if I don't do it. Those things may have
Yep.
even been true in childhood. So I love that you're trying to
Yeah.
take a deep breath with this, where you're like, okay, I want to use these patterns well. Is that what I hear you saying?
Well, absolutely, because, and this is how this could go so well with the couples therapy, because when you look at the gifts you are born with and you bring into this world and pair that with your partner, the relationship you can have was like, whew. But because
Mhm.
I didn't know that, I let the stress of everything that happened when we first got together
Mhm.
overtake me. And then you forget about it. So then we just keep blaming each
Yeah.
other, like, oh, like, why can't you just be more like me? And why is this all on me? And so, right, I mean, so compelling that we've opened up our
Yeah.
own counseling center and
Oh
podcast
my
because
gosh.
of it. But
Right.
that's how this is like, it's like you get that we get the couples in despair that are like,
Mm. Mm.
we're almost done. This is
Yeah.
counseling is the last resort. And then
Hmm.
when they get to this compassionate shift with each other,
Mm.
bringing in these gifts and like the way you conceptualize me, right?
Hmm.
Around childhood and having to do certain things so certain things got blacked out. I mean, that's what couples can hear once they've gone through that process where now
Mm.
they can say, hey, you're a five, you're great at this, you're a one or two or both, you're great at this. And how do we bring those together to really strengthen and shine? And I think you call it the glow, the Enneagram
Ah,
glow.
yes.
The
Together we
glow in the
glow.
world. Yes. I mean, I'm such a glow girl.
You really
And
are.
to,
Well, and I see that sometimes, like, because these things are shades apart, that like I can be really thoughtful and try
yeah.
to solve problems in a slower but more in-depth way. But it also can go to a place of avoidance. And
Mhm.
where I'm avoiding making a decision because maybe it's a difficult decision. Maybe I'm afraid I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings, or maybe I'm not ready to deal with the outcome. And for you, that can be like really frustrating. And
Yeah.
so then sometimes if you're perceiving it as avoidance,
Right.
then you're not seeing sort of my strength, which is that like I slow things down. And
Mhm.
so it make that's where the whole like couples work comes in, is seeing that like oftentimes our strengths
Hmm.
are also our areas of growth and our ways in which we sort of like cope in unhealthy ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
And
do think you said it beautifully on the episode I listened to today. You said, don't look at it as differences, look at it as opportunities
mm,
within
mm.
each other.
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's what I'm focusing on this season, a bit more joy together versus just the work. Because we know how important deep diving is, but I also know how important it is to lift us up for joy. And then it sounds like, EJ, you're like, I identify more with that five space. Interestingly, four and five, again, like the one and two sit next to each other. You could be four wing five, five wing four. Both of those types are withdrawing types. So it made sense that you're going to not just be doing inhibited if you're a five, but also if you're a four. You're going to take
Yeah.
longer for things. You're going to deliberate. That's in the Enneagram world where the heart meets the head. So it's a prolific space, that four and
Mm.
five space. I'm sure there's a lot of genius there. And then with the doing energy that you're also bringing. Oh my gosh, Terah, you guys are such a dynamic duo. Tell us about just how you learned to bring out relationship renovation. This is such a successful place. You have staff. You're both so good at helping couples. Tell us about like what was the journey like to get you there?
Oh, you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I've been a marriage therapist. I was 24 when I had my first session. So for over
Mm.
22 years, I've been a
Oh,
marriage
how
therapist. And I
beautiful.
knew when I was 4 years old, Krista, you won't believe this. I
Oh, wow.
knew I wouldn't have said a couples counselor,
Yeah.
but I remember sitting at this table, we were out for dinner, and there was this couple and they weren't talking to each other. And I went outside to my grandma and I was crying. She's like, "What's happening?"
Oh
I was
my
like, "They look
God.
so sad." Like, I just was so drawn to people and their suffering and the couples dynamic that even when I was in grad
Wow.
school, I knew couples is the way I want to go.
Oh, wow.
So
Love that.
fast forward,
A
you
few
know,
years
few
and a few
years.
boyfriends.
He had to
Um,
mention the latter.
I had seen all of these couples go through so much despair, and I'm like, well, I'm just like gonna make sure, like when I find the person, so I was 37. I
Mm.
was like the serial monogamous, like, oh,
Yeah.
hey, it's been a great 7 years. Sorry, gotta go out and see what's next. And I
Yeah.
was just afraid. And so I met EJ, and we were both kind of working in the eating disorder world at that time. And I remember
Mm.
thinking, like, what a cool dude. Like, he's like doing amazing work with these
Oh,
women, these teenagers. And I
wow.
just thought he was like the coolest thing ever.
Oh,
Great therapist.
beautiful.
And so we became friends. And then he went through do you mind if I share?
No, go ahead.
He went through a really bad divorce.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of colleagues at our center. We were like, EJ,
Oh,
like, I'm gonna be your wing sister. Let's find you a rebound. We're gonna go out.
oh,
And
yeah.
we went out that night and he kissed me, and we have been together ever since. And I tried to break up with him, and I just woke up and I was like, I don't want to do life without EJ. And I'd never felt that ever in my whole life. And I'm a pretty good picker of guys, I feel
Oh,
like,
yeah.
obviously. So I'm just like in heaven. Like, I had that felt sense of like, I don't want to do life without EJ. And
Wow.
now he's going to be willing to like grow with me in whatever way
Mm.
that looks like. And so we had this great, I call it the honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
He had two boys from his marriage. They were two
Yeah.
and four at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And so we get engaged. We're happy. We're healthy. We're
Yeah.
loving each other.
Having a
We're
good
great
time. We have
therapists.
free
Mm.
time half of the time.
Wow.
So,
Right.
boys are with their
Yeah.
mom for half the time we're, kind of like a
Yeah.
single couple,
Yeah.
dating.
So we
Yeah.
get married, and on our honeymoon, we come back and I'm pregnant with twins.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
so I
Oh,
went from 0 to 4 kids in a year and a half.
oh my word.
And of course, I'm like, I'm so blessed. Thank you,
Yes,
universe.
of
Whatever,
course.
like, thank
Of
you. Like, I'm
course.
so, well, these twins had colic, and I did not know what that meant.
Oh,
Both had colic, not for 6 weeks, but for 9 months.
oh
So
my.
I was, I had
Yeah.
very bad postpartum
Our
depression.
life became
Mm.
hyper stressed.
So I
Yeah.
would nurse every
Oh,
hour, not sleep for 5 days. EJ would come, he had to take over my whole caseload. He would come in
mm.
and I'm like, how
Wow.
dare you be gone all day? Like, just, I've
Yeah.
never been
Oh.
so overwhelmed because not only did I have the twins who had colic,
Mm.
50% of the time I had these two young boys where I had to go and pick them up from
Oh
kindergarten and
my
first grade and do homework and dinner. And EJ took over my caseload so we could financially get
yeah.
through it. And he wouldn't get home until 8 o'clock at night. And
Mm.
so here's how it all starts. I'm running in the
Yeah.
park with the
Yeah.
double stroller because the only time they would sleep is if they're like jiggling a little.
Yeah.
By the
Oh.
way, they're about to be 11 this Saturday. We made it.
Oh. Yeah.
And I called EJ and I said, EJ, we
Mm.
ha we have to help other couples. Like, we have to get through this first, but if we have all these tools and we're experiencing this difficult of a time,
Yeah.
we have to help others. And he was like, no, I don't really like working with couples. And I
Mhm.
was just like, well, let's just wait. But there was that feeling of like, we have all these tools, right? We're these great therapists, these professionals. And
Yeah.
I was literally like, I'm divorcing you. I'm taking the minivan that we had to buy to
Yeah.
Kentucky. I have a twin sister, by the way,
Okay.
and she's in Kentucky. And
Aw.
so we we just had to go through like 2 years of really renovating our relationship. And that is
Wow.
how we came up with our
You're
program and our model called the Relationship Renovation Model. And it was just the two of us that started. And then we got on like a year wait list, and couples could not wait a year. They can barely wait a week. And so
Mm-hmm.
now we have 15 of us, and
Oh,
all of the therapists are trained in our model, which is a very,
oh, wow.
right, structured model, but
Mm-hmm.
unique to each couple.
Mm.
And now we've helped. And then we
Yeah.
started our podcast in 2018, and just people from around the world saying thank you and sending us emails. And
Oh,
it's just been like from our own suffering. But I knew I loved this man. I just forgot. I lost me. I lost my glow.
mm-hmm.
But I knew I loved him. And
Yeah.
sorry, I'll
No.
stop talking.
No, you gotta stop talking. No, no. As I listened to the story, obviously I've lived it and heard it before, but it's like I'm really struck by like God really does work in like mysterious ways, and like we have helped so many people. I know that because we've gotten
Yeah.
letters, and we know
Oh,
couples that still are in touch with us that have worked with
oh,
us, close to a decade ago,
Yeah.
oh.
and so we've helped so many people, but I don't think we would have made it if we didn't do this because
Yeah.
we got a much deeper understanding of how to have a healthy marriage,
Wow.
and a much deeper understanding of the personal work that
Yeah.
needed to be done consistently over years
Hmm.
in order for us to become better at becoming in a relationship. And so it's like such a
Mm.
it's like two things happening at once, is that yeah, we've helped so many people, but the practice of doing this is what's gotten us to where
Yeah.
we are now, where we still struggle for sure, we still have things that we're working through, but we are as close as we've ever been. We've helped each other through some really difficult moments in each of our lives. We're better at loving each other. We're more accountable for our own junk.
We
Mm.
accept each other's Enneagram
We
types.
yeah we accept each other's faults,
Mm-hmm.
and we understand that each other's faults are actually our own suffering. And so it's just an amazing thing to hear, like the work we've done, but also like, gosh, thank God that we did it, because I don't think we would have come out this other side
No.
otherwise.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And helping all these people, as you said.
Yeah.
Wow. What made you guys like say we did the work? And then I'm going to ask you, of course, about some of the work you did so our couples
For
here can
sure.
learn right alongside with you.
Yeah.
But what would you say is like your why when you say, like, gosh, I'm having a hard day, or I just need to reflect and remember why? Is it like, do you picture somebody in your head? Do you picture yourselves in the old days? What is it that really inspires you to do this beautiful couples work and reach people all over the globe?
Mine is, my why is connection. I'll
Mm,
start crying a little. I'm sorry.
It's
no,
okay,
I
baby.
love you.
I think my family was so
Mm,
disconnected, and
yeah,
it was just bad.
yeah,
And I knew
mm,
from a little girl, like,
yeah,
I had this light, this brightness to me, but I
mm,
couldn't find like love in that way. And
yeah.
now it's like my life's work to make
Oh,
people, including my life, feel very connected and loved.
wow.
Okay.
Oh, that's
For
beautiful.
for me, it's I don't know. This feel I keep yeah, I'm kind of like looking through everything we do today through the Enneagram and what we learned, and the 5-1-4-2 thing, and so mine is a little more heady but also hearty. Is that like there's just so much suffering in the world, and
Mm,
you're just confronted with it from so early in your life of seeing young people pass away, and
mm,
seeing people going through divorces, and you know everything Tara went through as a kid, my sister dying young. Like there's
Yeah.
mm,
so much suffering in this world, and to be able to have your career be a part of
Yeah.
helping that, and then having
mm,
that validation of
mm,
somebody calling you 10 years later and
Mm.
saying like, God, what a difference it was the time that I spent working with you, or an email, somebody you've never
Yeah.
met saying,
Mm.
we started listening to your podcast 6 months ago. We've never been happier.
I
Our
know.
kids say they're happier than they've ever been. I
Oh,
mean, like, it's just so like, I mean, it's just an incredible
Yeah.
gift to have ended up where we are. And we try to keep that because we still have stress and we freak out about this and that and get lost in all kinds of normal things people do. But then when it comes back to that's what we're doing and we're doing it
mm.
together also, like it's just such an incredible blessing. We are so freaking lucky that
Yeah.
we
Oh,
ended up where we're at and
yes. Oh,
blessed and blessed.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yes. I love how you're saying like blessed and also realizing you're just fortunate too. Because
Yeah.
we know people are blessed in other ways as well. And marriage isn't the only way, but you're like, we were blessed here. So I love that you both nailed that and you just keep that why in mind. And now we can talk a
Yeah.
little bit about the how. When couples are super stressed out, as you said, we all know they
Yeah.
sometimes can't wait the week even. What is something you do to help them to renovate? Something you learned along the way that is an early
Yeah.
must do sort of thing?
Code word. It was it was the moment I was like, oh my gosh, we can actually, there are tools for this.
Mm,
And it was, I didn't know it was code word at the time, but EJ had
yeah.
come home from work and I like was just not in a good place. And I'm like, take the babies.
Yeah.
And then I just said, like, I said, EJ, burnt toast. Why burnt toast? Because, man, I would try to make toast all day and I would forget about it in the toaster because of the
Mm,
kids and the nursing.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'd go back and by the time it was done, it was burnt. So I said, EJ, when I say burnt toast, that means I'm not good. I'm not good for me. I'm not good for you. I'm not good for the kids
Oh,
around us or even our animals. And
yeah.
then when I say that, we call it code word now. When I say that, I have
Mm,
to remove myself because this is not who I am. It's
yeah.
not who I want to be. And
Yeah.
I'll either like, I'll just take care of myself. I'll go Miles Davis, just whatever
Mm.
his music is, it just calms me down, or an
Yes,
Us magazine, or just a
exactly.
bath.
Yes.
But
Mm.
EJ knows, okay, she said burnt toast. I'm going to remove all obstacles in her way so
Wow.
she can have her bubble bath or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's me taking accountability that like I don't want to be this person. So I think EJ really respected that. And then it kept us from getting out of our window of tolerance many times where then things just unravel. And now you're saying hurtful things to each other and now your relationship is threatened, which is the couples we get in right now. That's what's happened. So just taking that time out, getting back into
Mm.
your window of tolerance as much as you can through many different techniques, whether it's mindfulness. I love
Mhm.
how you do your breathing, by the way, at the end of your
Mhm.
podcast. It's really great. It's just like be intentional. That was one of the first things we did to not make it worse, to
Mm.
start the repair of it. That's my, how
I
about,
mean, I think that I couple that
Mm.
with the deep understanding of yourself and your partner. Is it,
Mm.
the
mm,
tools that Tara's talking about? You have to have the tools just to keep things
yeah,
from consistently going offline and
Yeah.
from just reacting from a place of fight, flight,
Mm.
freeze, fawn,
Mm.
but then once you have some of those tools and you're practicing it, then it's like really gaining a deep understanding of the most difficult moments, the times where I get the most upset with Tara or
Mm.
upset period of being in a relationship are moments where she's really, really, really suffering.
Yeah.
And oftentimes couples come in and they see the symptoms of their
right.
partner's
Mm.
suffering, and what they see it as is just like the person just being the biggest, jerk, the
Mm.
most narcissistic, the gaslighter, all these
Mm.
pop psychology words we start throwing around. And
Yeah.
if you boil it down, it's just like, no, it's like that's their suffering. That is
Mm.
they're not doing this because it feels good. Like I'm not like the,
Yeah.
I have a wonderful side to me, but then I have a real like judgmental, closed off,
Mhm.
isolative
Mm.
side of me. And when I'm doing that, I'm not doing it because I feel good. I'm
Yeah.
doing it one, because I don't even know I'm doing it. I'm just like somehow protecting myself, maybe, not really.
Mm.
But when Tara has the ability to understand and be there with me and maybe even help me get through it and
Mm.
understand myself a little bit better, like
Wow.
that's like the deep bonding that we have. And so I don't know how you build a really happy, healthy, like resilient relationship if you don't like really understand yourself
Yeah.
and your partner's suffering and why it's happening, and then help them blossom into the human that they can be. You know, we're still working on it. Like we're still
I was
like
just
like
thinking, I
we're
was laughing because
Mhm.
trying to tell you that you were being avoidant was like one of the hardest things in the whole wide world.
what
You're
do you
like,
mean I'm avoidant of being avoidant? Like
it
what the hell
took
are you
years.
talking about?
Oh, that's interesting.
But yeah, like as soon as you walk into our counseling center in Tucson, we have this chalkboard that says our partner is our greatest teacher, be patient for the lessons. And
Mm.
it's so true because I wouldn't be the person I am today without EJ being my little blind spot person and me trusting that he's doing this because he loves me, not because he's trying to, critique me or make me different. But
Mm.
it just, right, as humans, like we want instant gratification. We want it to feel okay. We don't want this person to like trigger me. And
Mhm.
so it's just hard to unravel it when there's two together. That's why, people are like, oh, couples counseling
Yeah.
doesn't work. And it's like, well,
It's the most difficult
yeah,
Mhm.
way to heal, but it's also like the most like
Yes.
that's true.
cutting to the heart. Like nobody,
Mm.
nobody, I don't hurt as much with anyone else than I hurt when I feel really disconnected from Tara.
Yeah.
You know, like
Mm.
I want to be connected with her so deeply, and yet it's been so hard at times. And
Mm.
therefore, it's also been like a key indicator for both of us of like what's our area of growth.
Mhm.
Mm.
You know, it
Mhm.
like highlights my BS. You
Mm.
know, the
Mhm.
crap I do that makes no sense,
Mhm.
and I'm blind to myself. This relationship is the one more so than any other that says like, "Hey, EJ, here's your area of growth. Figure this out, or just you know, move on and have it happen again,
Repeat it in the next relationship. Yeah.
or be super lonely and by yourself."
Yeah. Oh
Or
my
keep
God.
living numb and frozen. Okay,
Or
I'll stop. Okay.
yeah, or
Right.
develop an addiction and
Right. Right. And we know, like, medically speaking, I was also just talking to a client about this, but like, we can do better together, even in longevity, by just having that
Mhm.
partner. And you're just saying it's a deeper dive. Of course, we can grow on our own. That's one part of the self preserving Abraham Maslow's lowest level, lowest hanging fruit level. But you're like,
Yeah.
when you do dive in, like you said in Tucson, where you have that sign and you really learn from your partner, you're like, it's our greatest gift. It's hard, it's the harder work, but it's the
Yeah.
greater gift. And I think for the couples out there saying, okay, so, I loved how even with your personalities, I saw Tara's high level strategy of here's an actual tool. You can use a code word to really tell each other. And then EJ's saying also really get to know one another in and out so you know one another's suffering. There's the four wing five right
Yeah.
there. But also, when somebody says, okay, we're both suffering and we're both stressed, what helps you to move people from like those anxious or avoidant tactics to say, okay, because I'm sure most of your couples come to you like this. What's something that you do early on just to recommend that people do if they're both feeling the overwhelmedness?
I think it's another basic tool. It's daily emotional check-ins.
Mhm.
It's like it's spending just 2 to 4 minutes every single day.
We recommend 5, but 2 to 4
Yeah,
is like the bare
saying
minimum.
this.
Okay.
I'm avoiding that 1 minute. Uh,
This is her too pulling
it's like
out for that last minute.
yes, it's saying like, hey, here's how I'm feeling today,
Yeah.
developing the ability to understand what you're feeling and then
Yeah.
have a vocabulary to express it,
Yeah.
and then having your partner not editorialize or
Yeah.
fix it, but merely say, I hear that you're feeling A, B, and C. Because it's the beginning of creating like vulnerable connected moments.
Mm.
And then, so in session, right? I mean, this is like therapist talk right here, but
Yeah.
most couples don't have emotional safety when they come see us.
Mm.
It's threatened, we're divorcing, it's one foot out the door.
Yeah.
So it's the therapist's job to provide emotional safety in that room for those 75 minutes as much as they can. And so very early on, I'm like, listen, I won't let you guys, I want to see what's happening. I want to hear your suffering. I won't let you guys get into this dynamic that you get in at home. You can do that outside of here for those 22 hours and however many, but not here. And so having them practice these intentional mindfulness, like how will I know when you're out of your window of tolerance? How will you know? How can you tell each other what's
Yeah.
okay to hear, what's not okay to hear? So really giving them that language and that
Mm.
shared experience in the therapy room is
Yes.
very helpful because then they can take it out of there because otherwise they don't have those skills yet. And I
Mm.
think a big thing is like you guys, it's just a lot of it is skills. We don't learn
Mhm.
how to be like, oh, you're mad at me? Tell me more. I'm like, what did
Right.
I do? You're
What's
like, well,
underneath the anger?
yeah.
If you weren't just angry, what else would you be there?
So, and I do think it's like
Yeah.
selling them that story. Like, you guys, we don't, a lot of us, some of us do, a lot of us don't learn these skills
Mm.
we learn how to protect ourselves when we're feeling threatened. That's our biology, that's our makeup anyway. We don't learn to stay present or comfortable in uncomfortable moments. So when the therapist can really show that that can happen,
Mm.
that's where they start to build confidence. Like, we can be like fighting, but it's going to be okay. Like
Yeah.
we can, right? We love each other enough to learn these skills. I could
Mm.
talk all day about this, but
No, I
yeah,
love that. Thank you for just helping people to remember keeping that window of tolerance open
yeah.
is essential and making sure that they get a helper. And we're going to share your info in a little bit too, but just knowing that it's okay and acceptable to not have it all together when you're outside of the therapist room. Like that just gives permission to everybody to be human. And yet you're
Yeah.
saying, yet you need these tools and skills. So we teach them to you. And
Yeah.
making sure that you feel that you're not going to be in fight or flight is so important. We had Dr. Dan Siegel who
Oh,
gave
yeah.
that whole window of tolerance to us, that term, about a month ago on the podcast because he just did an Enneagram book. And he really does remind us that we can't make changes outside of that. So
No.
you guys providing that for people is so key. And like we said, you're just saying even just 2 to 5 minutes
Yeah.
of really being safe together. I think that's doable for most people, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. And it's like small moments where you can build confidence. Because
Mm.
that's where they come in. They come in with absolutely no confidence that they can solve problems together, that
Yeah.
they can be in difficult moments, that they can be emotionally and physically connected again. And so it's
Mhm.
just like, can we just start building like small moments of connection that give you some confidence in each other, right?
That's
Yeah, and
what.
trust, right? Because then at
Yeah.
the end of the day, it's trust. It's like I'm safe. Because if we spend a month, half a year more
Mhm.
feeling really unsafe around each other,
Mhm.
our body just gets to the point where there's no hope to let them in. It's like I am protected from the moment you enter the house. My walls are up. And so
Mhm.
what we want to do is we want to see like, okay, can we just lower them a little bit? Can we
Mm.
peep over? Oh, it's
Mhm.
safe to look. It's
And
Mhm.
well, and I was going to say, just because you've worked with, I'm sure, so many people on just finding their own unique Enneagram and the strengths at that, and how to have those power moves in the relationship. Like when couples come in and there is just this powerlessness, like I truly
Mhm.
have hope for everybody. And just being that hope holder for them, like that's mirrors. It's like, oh, I'm like, the moment you don't want to come back, like that's when you have to come back. And
Yeah.
remember, I reminded you of this. And I feel
Mhm.
like just the hope coming from the person who
Mhm.
has experience with it is like,
Mhm.
okay, we're in good hands. Like there is hope. Even if we end up not being together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what, how do you know this is going to work? That's the number one question we get. Like, I wish I did. If I did, we'd have a line out the door.
Yeah.
What I
Right.
do know is you will make a decision out of clarity, not fear. That's my goal.
Mhm.
So we're
Yeah.
going to get through all this stuff. We're going to go through these, however many lessons we have. It's usually 4 to 6 months. And
Mhm.
then we'll talk about what might feel good, but it won't be from this place of flight, fight, freeze, and all of that. And that's usually like, okay, we don't have to have, the perfectionist in me.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know that we will have this type of relationship in 4 to 6 months. Like,
Thank
we
you for
won't
doing
know
your
that.
own work, though, that you're like,
Yeah,
sometimes it takes
always.
longer and we're still doing our work. And that's the human part of it all. But
Absolutely.
you guys shared so beautifully how we can connect, how we can keep our window of tolerance healthy. What if we just need an emotional boundary with our partner? If we're like, okay, we were vulnerable, it was 5 minutes. I'm ready for that to be over. We all know we've had those moments in our marriages where it's like we're going on for too long. One of us is getting overstimulated, or both, usually both, but one admitting it and one sort of chasing down. What would you say couples can do, lastly, for just, we'll have a fun round in a minute, but just this piece is so important if you don't mind addressing it about how to be able to set that boundary when needed.
I mean, borrowing from another like real incredible person in this field,
Oh,
Dr. Stan Tacken,
he's
is he
amazing.
has this concept, just predict, plan, and prepare.
Yep.
Is that okay? We're starting to do these emotional connections, or we know we have to have this difficult conversation. Well, let's predict that, hey, generally if we talk for more than 15 minutes about something, there's a certain point where this happens. So we'll predict that that's probably going to happen, and we're going to plan. We're going to say, we're going to set an alarm. We're going to say, we're going to talk about this for 15 minutes. And after
Mm,
15 minutes, we're going to stop and we're going to go do our own thing. And then we'll
yeah.
come back together in a half hour and see if we want to continue, or we feel like, hey, that was enough. It's just like having a plan of looking at the past and knowing it's a pretty good indicator of what's going to happen in the future.
Mm,
And so like just really looking at everything and finding ways to be ready.
Predict, plan,
mm,
prepare. And there's also that check-in. This is huge because I try early on to always ask permission if you're going to share something. But
mm,
also,
mm.
hey, EJ, there's something I wanted to bring up. Are you in an okay spot to talk about it? There's always this asking for
Yeah.
permission because he knows like at 8 o'clock after 8 p.m. we can't talk business. Like I need to be in my
Mhm.
Mediterranean below deck 30 minutes show, whatever it is. And so
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
so we know that, right? And we keep learning
Mhm.
from each other, but we always ask each other, is now okay? And if not, when? So it's just a very like the word I'm thinking,
Intentional, just being
in,
intentional.
intentional, collaborative, respectful.
And again, it comes back to learning about your partner, because like on Sunday we were doing like meal prep and the kids were around, and I kept asking Tara like questions about the recipe. And I
Yeah.
should have known, like I should
Yeah.
have known there's too much stimulation, and
Yeah.
she's getting annoyed with me every time I ask. And in my like, sort of like closed off world, I'm like, I just want to know like how much yogurt goes in this. Why is she being such a jerk? But if
Yeah.
I open myself up and know what I know about Tara, I'm like,
Mm.
oh,
Mhm.
if I have to ask a question, I should preface it. I should be like, hey, can I ask you a question about this recipe right now, or do you need a few moments?
Hmm.
Like
Oh.
I have to like learn that about her. I didn't do it. I screwed up. I asked her, it overwhelmed her, but then I
Mhm.
didn't get defensive.
You repair it
I
after, repair
repaired,
quickly.
I am.
instead of like in the old days, I would have been like, what? This is baloney. All
Yes.
I want to know is what's in the freaking recipe, for God's sake.
Why are you such a
Right.
stress ball?
Why are you ruining
Right.
my day? I was
Yeah.
just
You
fine.
two wing one wing two you. No,
Yeah, I
stop.
love that. You have nailed it, you guys. And like, I see the five so much in him too, which that's such a cool pairing because some of the time I had to learn to find those spaces that EJ's saying because my husband's a one wing too. And so I had to be like, okay, wait a minute. Like, doing all the self-evaluation as a positivity type, is this really me? Of course, sometimes it was, but like say when it wasn't and he was just overstimulated, it's so funny that EJ took the opposite sort of the withdrawing stance, like the conceit of the five, like it's definitely not me either. I kind of love that for you guys,
Yeah.
though. I do like being a fly on the wall for couples like that. Because there's good to both, right? We don't want someone to
Yeah.
be overly humble and miss out on their power. We also don't want somebody to be missing out on the chance to say, "Oh, wait, hang on a second, you might not be right about me." So you guys,
Yeah.
you guys do that really well. And of
Thank you.
course,
you.
more importantly, you learned this is not about either of us being bad. It is about one person being
Just who we are.
overstimulated and one person
Yeah.
not being thoughtful about that. So
Yes.
thank you for bringing people. This is huge, beautiful awareness you gave. I want to do a quick sort of lightning round for you guys.
Sure.
Just 10 quick questions. You can answer them quickly and they could be the same or different answers. We'll call it the
Okay.
rapid renovation round after you
All
guys.
right.
But
Ooh, I
tell
Can you,
us,
like
can you
it.
answer the question quickly, Terah? That's a big question.
Doesn't matter.
and it's okay. Like I
There's
said,
no
if
right
it's
or wrong.
different, just know who, like maybe you can trade off who goes first and second, or you can shout it
Sure.
out together, whatever you like. And then after, of course, we want to hear all about you. But okay, perfect. Thanks, guys. All right. So the
All right.
first question is books or podcast for learning?
I Tara Brock podcast, she goes through this RAIN technique: recognize, allow, investigate, nurture. Every time I turn her on, like it's like she's in my heart, she's in my brain, and she reminds me to be present and what's really important.
I think Attached is a fantastic book for couples to read in getting an understanding of attachment theory and just why your partner is sort of the way they are.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys for those specifics. I love that. We love that. And it's top of the year still, so everyone has new learning they can do. Okay, now for you two, something about you two. Do you like teaching together or do you like dividing and conquering?
We're learning dividing and conquering is not our jam. So this year, because we stay disconnected and managing a business, it kind of shows up in that way. So this year, our job, our intentions is to be together in basically everything
Yeah.
as much as we can be.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. I would say both. I would say that we both kind of crave some independence,
Yeah.
but we also have learned like, wow, we're really powerful together.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Okay, would you prefer home office work or coffee shop work?
Coffee shop work.
Home office.
Okay, yeah, I was like, I'm waiting for that with the 5 and the
Yeah.
4. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You kind of alluded to this, but deep conversation, morning coffee or evening wind down?
Morning coffee.
Morning coffee, definitely.
Okay, perfect. Processing conflict, do you like to talk it out or think it through?
I'm a talker outer.
I think I need to think it out a little bit, but I definitely want to come back and talk about it. But I need a second to process through it first.
And that's how a lot of our listeners are who have a 9, who have a 5, a 4. I love it. And I love that you're coming back. And I love that you knew yourself, Terah. Okay. Perfect date, home project together or somewhere where you're exploring somewhere new.
Exploring somewhere new.
Yeah, definitely exploring somewhere new.
Oh,
That's our passion. We love that. We have so much fun together.
I saw that on your website. I love that. Okay. Recharge time together in silence or separate spaces.
Together in silence.
Yeah, I would say together in silence.
Yeah.
I don't like to be alone.
I don't either.
I end up being alone sometimes through my own BS, but no, I want to be with you.
Oh, okay. Last few learning style, reading research or sharing stories for learning.
Sharing stories.
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean,
You are.
I love to listen and read, and so in short bites, so probably listening, reading.
Oh, beautiful. And I think I know this one too, but for communication preference, where you would text your check-ins or save for face-to-face, like your check-ins.
Face to face.
Face to face, 100%.
Okay. And last connection style, would you rather have planned quality time or spontaneous moments?
Ooh. I would rather have spontaneous moments, but plan quality time because of our children in our
Yes.
life is that's enough. Like knowing that we have our morning
Yeah.
time and we always have like a few hours on the weekend to do our little question card game and ask each other questions, or we play Yahtzee or Boggle in front of the
Yeah.
fireplace. Like we always know that that's going to happen because we make time for it and it's not spontaneous. But if we didn't make time for it, it wouldn't happen.
I'm also just a big developmental guy. And so, like, this is
Mm,
a time where it has to be planned for us. But I
mm,
know there's going to be a time in the future where we're going to get to have some more spontaneous
yes.
times. And so we have to plan right now.
Yeah, that is your five talking as you literally plan for the future in these tiny little micro ways. And it's bringing a hope to Tara also. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to get better and better. And that's the most beautiful part
Yeah.
about your marriage work together is you do that and then you bring it to us. So I'm so glad I've gotten to know you guys. I know everybody else would love to catch up with you more. You have a beautiful Instagram and website, and they could work with you. Tell us how.
I mean, the easiest thing to do probably is just relationship renovation in your search bar. Will pop up. We have relationship renovation on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You can email us. You know, we're really excited. This is a year where, like we mentioned, where we're coming back together and working together with couples, and we're going to begin some coaching this year.
Mhm.
So if you are interested in that, info@relationshiprenovation.com would be a great place to email and inquire.
And we have we did this actually during COVID, but we created a R&R at home program so
Mm.
people globally could use it. But then people are reaching out like it would be great if they love the R&R at home program, but
Yeah.
some couples need more coaching. So that's where we're like, okay, great. So we're kind of listening to what is needed out there and planning for that.
Thank you for doing that market survey versus like ideating is so great, but you're like, we're listening. So if you tell us what you need,
Yeah.
we will be thoughtful to integrate that too. And I hear that so much with your beautiful heart, Tara, and with your
Thank you.
beautiful style, EJ, of just wanting to make sure you're learning all the time. So thank you guys so much for the ways you've shared with us today. I'm so excited for everyone to get to know you. And this is all in the show notes. So thank you guys so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's been such a pleasure. It was a blast.
Oh, yay. I'm so glad. Thank you. Me too. Okay, thank you so much, my friend, for joining us. Aren't EJ and Tara wonderful? All of their information is in the show notes. And remember, secure love is built in those small moments of choosing connection. You can find more from them at Relationship Renovation. And don't forget to check those show notes, check in with your spouse. And until next time, keep growing and glowing. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.